Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by our phenomenal sponsors, Amp America. Folks, don't support the corporate media and their bias and their fluff. Go to Amp America and get the news you need to know. News articles, opinion pieces, podcasts, and more. Yes, we're doing some very in-depth coverage as we go through the 2024 election season. Head to ampamerica.com. Also, the Brian Nichols Show and yours truly, powered by our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle. Now, folks, I've been using Cardio Miracle for about a year and a half now, and yes, the results are in. The Cardio Miracle difference is 1,000% real. So if you want to learn how to lower your blood pressure, lower your resting heart rate, while at the same point in time increasing the pump at the gym, increasing a restful night of sleep, stick around. We're going to talk more about Cardio Miracle and its amazing powers, I will say, that help improve your heart health. But we're going to talk about that later. First, we're going to go ahead and talk about all that's been happening in the world. I mean, a few things have been going on. What else? Oh, yeah, that's right. An assassination attempt on one of the leading nominees for president of the United States, and just happens to be a former president of the United States in Donald Trump. So I think there's a little bit to unpack there, plus a couple other cool and some, I say, housekeeping items to discuss with our guest for today. So to do all that and more, returning to the Brian Nichols Show from Gray Bull Rescue, Bryan Stern. Welcome back to the Brian Nichols Show. How you been?
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. Just got back from Beirut, so I'm happy to be in Florida.
Right. Whenever we have a conversation, I always love how you start out like, yeah, I'm just got back from one part of the world 3 hours ago. Just settling in. I'm like, I've been hanging out in Indiana, so yay. But it's good. It's good to hear you're doing great. And obviously some stuff's changed for folks who are longtime listeners here of the Brian Nichols Show. They've heard you as a part of a different organization. And now they're hearing, wait, Bryan Stern from Gray Bull Rescue. What's going on there, Bri?
Yeah, my team and I have separated from Project Dynamo, and we launched a new effort called Gray Bull Rescue. Gray Bull is the next step. When I launched Project Dynamo in my living room in August 2021, it was designed to be a temporary solution to a temporary problem. We were watching Afghanistan on TV and wanted to do something, but I had this thing called a job back then. I had this other thing called a life back then. That's 3 years ago. So Dynamo was designed to be a startup, stayed a startup, was never designed to be a long-term thing. If you would have asked me in August 2021, would I have been breaking people out of jail from Russia in 2022, or doing ops in Sudan in 2023, or doing helicopters in Haiti in 2024, or rescuing kids from Gaza, or just coming back from Beirut, I would have laughed at that. But what we've learned, my team and I, backed by a bunch of real amazing admirals and generals and real sacred cows in the special operations and intelligence community, is that a sustainable answer is needed. The world is getting less safe geopolitically. More Americans are in captivity today than the last 45 years. There's no reason to believe that tomorrow, or even after November, or even after January, if there's a political change in this country, that all of a sudden all the bad guys are going to find Jesus. That's probably not going to happen. So Gray Bull is really the next step. It's the sustainable answer as a nonprofit to rescue Americans wherever they may be in trouble, that the U.S. government, for one reason or another, can't get to, either because it's a policy thing or even a geography thing or what have you. Frankly, we don't really care. An old lady trapped in a hurricane from Georgia is still an American citizen, is just as an American as an old lady trapped in Russian occupied Ukraine that needs help. It doesn't matter to me, frankly. I kind of don't distinguish between the two, to be honest. So we just came back from Lebanon. Making preparations there if things go sideways there, which I think that they do, the Israelis are making rumblings that they're going to target Beirut, specifically the airport. If that happens, the airport will close, therefore airspace closes, and thousands of Americans are stuck there. The embassy may evacuate, they may not, unknown. They have been attacked a few times already by Hezbollah and ISIS. So if they evacuate and the airport closes, and you're an American, you're kind of without options. But good news, you do have options. You register with us, you call us, you hit our website, and we'll come get you. We have some really good infrastructure built. The Lebanese government is absolutely wonderful. They are our friends. The Lebanese government are our friends. Most people don't realize that 30% of Lebanon is actually Christian. In their law, in their constitution after the Civil War, it's a requirement that the president of Lebanon is required to be a Christian. So people hear Lebanon, they think of terrorists hanging from the trees. That may or may not be true, but the Lebanese government are absolutely good allies and friends of the United States. The people are great, the food's great, the weather's great. It's just an active conflict zone, which is really, really, really sad. So
Hey,
we went over to set conditions for if those evacuations need to happen for Americans.
and let's actually dig into that a little bit, Bri, because I mean, for for folks who are listening here to the show, the past 3 weeks, particularly when it comes to the news, have very much been focused, within our domestic politics. You start out with the Joe Biden Donald Trump debate. I mean, that was just horrifying on so many different levels, and then you fast forward to the just nonstop clamoring from folks in the Democratic Party saying, please, Joe Biden, go get out of the way. And then you fast forward to this past weekend and the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There's been a lot of stuff in domestic politics that's been just leading the news headlines, but you're talking about Lebanon, you're talking about Israel possibly striking Lebanon, striking the airport. A lot of this stuff is flying, no pun intended, under the radar here, Bryce. So, I mean, I don't mean to get into the weeds, but could you give us a little more context? What's going on with the Israeli Lebanese conflict? Is this just a carryover from what was happening in Gaza, or is it something different?
Yeah. So Israel's sworn enemy is Hezbollah, and Hezbollah's sworn enemy is Israel. Hezbollah is the largest state, is a terrorist group. By all accounts, from our perspective, certainly and certainly justified. They're much more than that, though. Hezbollah is a global enterprise. Think of Al Qaeda meets the mafia. They have businesses. They run hospitals. They do all kinds of social programs. So Hezbollah is much more, and they're very organized and they're very well resourced. So backed entirely by Iran, but there's a large presence of Hezbollah guys in America. So when we talk about these issues, it seems like an over there kind of a problem, and to a large extent it is, but it is absolutely a here problem too. And the reverse is true. In Lebanon, the Lebanese people don't want war. Most of them have no problem with Israel, but Israel is attacking Hezbollah, which is based in Lebanon. So from the Lebanese perspective, their sovereignty is under attack, specifically around the southern border. And the Lebanese perspective is very simple. Your southern border is under siege, and you're not happy about it. You're a sovereign country. We're a sovereign country too. Our sovereignty is just as valid pursuant to the Vienna Conventions and the Geneva Conventions and the United Nations. Lebanon is a sovereign country. We have an embassy in Beirut. The Lebanese have an embassy in Washington, D.C. Lebanon has a seat at the UN. So it's a real country. Hezbollah is kind of like a state within the state, though. So the Israelis targeting Hezbollah are also conducting combat operations inside Lebanon, which make the Lebanese upset. I get that. Now, flipping the script completely, the debates, I was in Lebanon during the debates. In Lebanon, engaging with the Lebanese government, who are our allies. They are our friends. These are good folks who we kind of discount a little bit, and we probably shouldn't. The debate was a hot topic in Lebanon. So while we're not paying a whole lot of attention to their politics, they're very much paying attention to our politics. Every meeting I went to, I was asked, so who do you think is going to win? Or did you see that, what do you make of this? Because they don't really know many of us. They don't really know many of us, just like we don't know many of them. So my point is that this over there problem is very much a here problem, and our problems are very much felt over there too. So the world, which is seemingly humongous and very far away, is actually very small. And the challenge is that part of Grable, one of our core values, is that we're unabashedly apolitical. I frankly don't care who the president of the United States is. I don't. I could care less, actually. I don't care if it's Joe Biden. I don't care if it's President Trump. I don't care if it's if Biden should drop out and it's President Harris in a few months. So be it. I'm an American. So be it. What I care about, though, is the impact of being the leader of the free world, and us as a country. Our leadership is desperately needed. Without the leadership of the United States of America, the world goes a little sideways. It just does. And what happens is someone else, I promise, will fill the void. That turns into Russia, China, or Iran. And that is bad for us. So it doesn't matter who's president. It really doesn't. We are Americans. Our core values are our core values. We can kill each other and argue about every little thing and every little social issue, and from gun rights to abortion to whatever. And all those things are certainly valid. And those are all worth arguing and deliberating and debating about, certainly. And it's our God-given rights in the Constitution from the Founding Fathers. We are a country steeped in conflict. The Boston Tea Party, by today's standards, would be a terrorist event, right? So that's okay. But what we can't do is let the world go bananas because we don't do our part as leaders. This is true if you're a squad leader in the Army, if you're a platoon leader in the Marine Corps, if you're a general at the Pentagon. It doesn't really matter. If you're the CEO of Ford, it doesn't matter. Leadership is an active sport. It's not passive. And I would argue that the way things have gone down in our country for a long time, not just under President Biden, or not just under President Trump, and not just under President Obama, in a lot of important ways, decisions have been made that are either smart or stupid, or easy to understand or hard to understand. None of that matters. The result, though, is how we are perceived on the world stage and the impact of that on American citizens globally. Today, there are more, I say it all the time, there are more American citizens in captivity today than the last 45 years.
Wow.
That's a mistake. That's a mistake. And if we go back 45 years as a country, if we turn back the clock, we had a contentious election between Carter and Reagan.
Reagan, yep.
The economy was in shambles. There was civil argument all over the place. Gas prices to the oil embargo were through the roof. A lot of parallels. We had a very, Republican versus Democrat stuff. A lot of parallels between then and now. However,
hey folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical, but after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80, and my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s, and I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle, and how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So, by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at the Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show.
No matter who you were, Republican, Democrat, black, white, purple, gay, straight, whatever you were, on the TV, on the nightly news, there was a ticker with all the names of the hostages in Iran. There was a counter for how many days they were being held. Everywhere you looked, there was yellow ribbons tied over every little thing. Schools in the projects, private schools in Beverly Hills. Everyone seemed to care. I would argue that today, I drive around Tampa, I don't see yellow ribbons anywhere. If I ask any American citizen, name me a single American that is in captivity somewhere today, they got nothing. There are Americans locked in closets as I talk to you right now, and no one seems to notice. That's a problem. That's a failure of us. I would argue that's a failure of us as Americans. And for me, this is what I think about all day and all night long. This is what Grable is all about, is if you're an American and you're stuck and the people don't seem to notice and the government doesn't seem to care, or maybe they do and they can't figure it out or whatever, my team, this is all we care about. I'm not a colonel trying to become a general. I'm not a governor trying to become a president. I'm not a president trying to stay president. I'm not an ambassador answering to the Secretary of State. I don't have conflicting policy issues. I'm not worried about trade or commerce or semiconductors or any of these other issues. None of that. Those are all worthy issues, and those are all good things to worry about. They're certainly not silly. They're good things to worry about. I don't have that problem, though. I don't have that distraction. My team and I are laser focused on one thing and one thing only, saving lives, and that's it. The biggest problem we have is that we're donor funded. Shameless plug, grablerescue.org is our website. We're entirely donor funded. We get not a penny from the government. I don't even get a thank you note from the government. And we've rescued more Americans from behind enemy lines than every single SEAL team combined in history from 1962 to present. So we don't need awards. We love what we do. Don't tell anybody don't tell it's a big secret, but I'm actually having the time of my life. I did this sort of work for my entire life and was always restricted by policy and decision makers and colonels on a power trip or generals who want to do it, but they can't, or all kinds of reasons. Now, my team and I answer to one person and one person only. And that's to the poor American who's stuck wherever they're stuck. It's the only person I really care about, those nameless people.
So, Bri, back in the day, I used to weigh just shy of around 400 pounds. I was a big, big boy. And I've been having this conversation quite a few times with folks where I like to talk about where I was at that time. And there's well, how do I lose this weight? There's the one answer that makes sense. You go to the gym, you work out, you eat right, you get active, calories in versus calories out, right? With the understanding of where I was starting out, 400-ish pounds. Then there's the other folks. It's like, well, you don't get fat in the first place. And I'm like, okay, that would have been very helpful. But you're right, but that's not where I am. And I see this conversation kind of, you'll hear I'm going, it kind of morphs into other conversations when it comes to political, or rather public policy. So sure. When we're talking about like our foreign affairs, our interventions over our history, you see the very much where you guys are. And hey, American citizens are in danger's way right now. And much like me when I was 400 pounds, you got to get them out, right? You got to lose the weight. But then there's the other side saying, well, why are we over there in the first place? Why are we playing the world's policeman? Are we spread too thin? Have we taken too much of a role? I mean, you look at Maui getting $700 per person. I think we actually talked about that a few months ago, versus you go over to Ukraine and they're getting $200 billion. Folks say, why can't that money focus here at home first before going overseas? So, Bri, I say all that to the people who in the audience are saying, well, Bri, we shouldn't weigh 400 pounds to begin with. We shouldn't be the world's leader. We shouldn't be the world's policeman. To those folks, and by the way, very much from I'd say a small L libertarian, non-interventionist perspective, what say you?
What I would say is that we don't have a choice. We are a superpower, whether we like it or not. It's, my dog passed away while I was in Haiti.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
he was a big, 135-pound American bulldog. If he was in the army, he'd be a cook. He was not a bright, shining light of a puppy. And a real gentle giant. He couldn't hurt anything or anyone. He was the worst guard dog that ever was. But if you looked at him, he was scary. I wear a size 16 shirt. He had a 22.5-inch neck, right? He was a beast of a puppy. When I would take him out, if a little small dog picked on him, and this actually happened. We had a dog bit him and he growled, and that dog ran into a fence and basically knocked himself out. And my dog got in trouble because he's the big dog. He's the big, scary dog. I say that
by the way, is why I never got in fights back in high school, because I was 6'5", pushing 400 pounds, and everybody else wasn't.
Right. I mean, this is it, right? Now, if you are a big dog, if you are a leader, and we claim to be, and I believe that we are, we put a man on the moon. We invented email, right? We invented football. We invented baseball. Come to that. So, we're a country that is tremendously capable. There's a reason why people are coming from Guatemala, a dump, in flip-flops, and putting themselves at risk to walk through the jungles and the desert to come to this country. It's not because we suck. It's because we're amazing. We're the best country in the world. If this was 500 years ago, or whatever, if Socrates were alive today, he'd be proud of the democracy of America, right? We are a good country. We're an amazing country. And with that comes responsibility. It just does. It just does. A cornerstone of our foreign policy, our entire national security policy and foreign policy, is predicated on two very, very important concepts. One, we are surrounded by a moat called the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, right? We are really hard to invade, which is why what's going on at the southern border is such a crime, because we're pretty easy to defend. We're ask the Ukrainians, they'll tell you, they have problems. We shouldn't have those problems. We're surrounded by a moat. Number two is friends. Our alliances are the ability of our ability to make friends and help other people keeps them our friend. And having friends is how you win wars. That's what prevents wars. That's the purpose of NATO. That's what the Soviet Union was, and what Russia wants so bad. The Russians and the Chinese have taken a page out of our playbook, and they're making friends too.
BRICS.
Well, if they wind up with more friends than we have friends, becomes a real problem. So you could be 6'5" and 400 pounds, and me versus you, that's a little scary. If I get 10 friends that weigh 400 pounds and are 6'5", you've got the problem now.
Yep, different conversation.
Now, you went from I'm the big guy to, oh, we got off to the wrong foot, little man. We should actually just reset this conversation. I thought I was a big guy. Actually, turns out you have bigger friends than me. You have friends my size or bigger that can actually eat my lunch. And now you go from, that fall is a lot harder, right? It's a lot harder. So, I would argue that as the United States, we have a responsibility not to be the policeman of the world, but we owe it to our own national security to protect ourselves, to have friends and alliances. It's so important. Without them, we got big problems because these other countries, they need friends and they're looking to be our friend. If we turn our backs, they'll find friends somewhere else. This is how ISIS started. This is what happened with ISIS. This is exactly what happened with ISIS. Bashar Assad in Syria were murdering summarily all the Sunnis. The Sunni rebels asked us for help. If we recall, John McCain went over. President Obama was the president at the time. John McCain and a small delegation went over, begged the president to get involved. He said no. We let them be slaughtered. And this ragtag group of people showed up and said, we are the caliphate. We're Sunni, you're Sunni. You asked the Americans for help. They said, no, we'll help you. From there, you get ISIS, which becomes the cancer of the world for years, that we're still dealing with for years. So, these decisions really, 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 really matter. People and countries that need alliances that are looking to be our friend, it is in our national interest to be their friend. It's not about helping them. I'm not worried about the third, the 123rd Mess Kit Repair Battalion of the Chinese Army parachuting in to New York, and all of us having to do Wolverines and stuff. I'm not worried about that at all. But the reality is we have equities overseas. We have equities in Asia. And if our friends that we rely on economically, if we turn our back on them and they're forced to go towards China, well, then an iPhone just became worth $200,000. I like having an iPhone. I don't want to pay $200,000 for an iPhone. That's important to our economy. I have a MacBook Pro that I'm talking to you on. I don't want to pay $500,000 for a MacBook because that's entirely controlled by the bad guys. I don't want that. They'll strangle us. And that's really their goal. China's goal is to defeat us without firing a shot. They don't want to engage in kinetic war with us. They want to engage in economic war with us.
Right. So I think what we're going to call this, Bry, I'm going to call your foreign policy. This is the Uncle Ben doctrine. With great power comes great responsibility, a la Spider-Man, like 2001. So that's our new foreign policy approach, the Uncle Ben doctrine. Now, with that, you mentioned ISIS. You mentioned actually a lot of world problems that if they didn't start during the Obama administration, they at the very least reared their ugly heads during that administration, and then come 2016, some stuff changed. Namely, we had a different president named Donald J. Trump. Now, fast forward to where we are today. He is now trying to get back into the White House to replace the guy who took him out of office, Joe Biden. And I'm seeing right now there is almost, it's funny, the arguments have flipped a little bit. It used to be in 2019 and 2020, you wanted to vote for Biden for this return to normalcy, right? And now I'm looking at the Donald Trump campaign. I'm hearing a lot of folks using that same verbiage when they're talking about a foreign policy from a Trump perspective. So obviously that's turned into a lot of our conversations, and I'm sure it's also turned into a lot of the pushback to someone like Donald Trump, which I'm guessing probably played a role in his attempted assassination over this past weekend as we're recording here on the 18th of July. So, Brian, you've been in this world for pretty much your whole life. And to see someone, a former president of the United States, have their life attempted to be taken during a campaign, I mean, this hasn't been seen in 40 plus years. So talk to us about just the gravity of this situation. And let's just elephant in the room. If something had happened where Trump had moved an inch to the left versus when he had turned his head to read that screen, where would we be as a country going into the end of this year and beyond?
Well, I think it's important to highlight that if the same scenario happened to current President Biden, it would also be catastrophic.
Yep. 100%.
Right? It's not just, President Trump almost got popped. People are calling this thing a failed assassination attempt. Only failed in the context that he's still alive. But from what I see, a sniper got into a sniper's perch that he shouldn't have had access to and fired off a series of rounds, one of which connected with the president. So, when Reagan was assassinated, John Hinckley, on the Reagan assassination attempt, people talk about, oh, Reagan was shot. People don't know the details. The bullet that struck Ronald Reagan bounced off the car. The shooter, John Hinckley, didn't point his gun and succeed, so to speak. He was getting all screwed up. He fired his gun, and it bounced off the car door, and that's what actually hit Reagan. So, this is the assassination, or an attempt of an assassination on a former president, a current president, a soon-to-be president, a presidential candidate. That these incidents reverberate globally. We need to remember this is the first presidential assassination that was ever caught on social media. Imagine if this was 1963 and it was a JFK assassination. We wouldn't know who killed JFK, right?
No debate, no grassy knoll, no, it's the guy over the bush. None of that.
You know, what would Oliver Stone and Kevin Costner have done without being able to make JFK the movie? Like, what would they talk about, right? The Zapruder film wouldn't be the Zapruder film because it'd be Billy Joe from Texas saying, "Hey, Paul, you won't believe what I got on my phone." Yep. We would know. So, when we talk about this, and I've been doing a lot of talking about this. I've done this kind of work for a long time. I've done hundreds and hundreds of security assessments and site surveys and threat assessments for venues just like this all over the world. There's some fundamental problems that have nothing to do even with the shooter, frankly, right? That we need to ask some very, 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 very hard questions. Of a 20-year-old punk kid without anything, who was probably a bedwetter and wore a tinfoil hat and was, from what we understand, a weirdo, which is what all these shooters ultimately become. That's what happens, right? That's what happens. Is hindsight's 20/20, and you get all the random people that know him. I always knew he was nuts. Well, thanks for letting somebody know. I appreciate it, right? That's how it always happens. But this is a 20-year-old punk kid who, watched some things on YouTube and wasn't too sharp, and is a middle student, not a bright shining light, not an activist of any kind, seemingly not passionate about hardly anything. If he was able to get to 143 yards of the president with a magazine-fed, air-cooled, direct impingement, gas-operated AR-15 rifle from DPMS, which is a nice way of saying a crappy gun, and successfully connect with the president unmolested, that's a problem. That's a if you're the Secret Service, that if you're the FSB agents that protect President Putin, you're looking at the Secret Service going, guys, what are you doing? Yeah. Right? When we talk about the distance, 143 yards.
A football field and a half. That's it.
Well, I'll go you one better. If you're a radio host in the Wisconsin Army National Guard, you're a cook in the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Not a sniper, not a special forces guy, a cook. Basic combat service support soldier. If you're a finance guy in the Army, you qualify at 300 yards at least twice a year, double the distance. So let me understand this right. If I'm a cook, I shoot twice the distance, or I can't be in the Army. That doesn't track? That sounds really terrible to me. Imagine if the kid wasn't a bedwetter punk kid. Imagine if he was a disgruntled veteran who was angry about whatever.
PTSD galore. Yeah.
I mean, things happen. We had the Air Force kid set himself on fire in front of the White House last year. I mean,
I forgot about that. Oh my God.
Yeah. Everyone thinks the veteran community that we're all like these like beacons of normalcy. Newsflash: we have just as many whack jobs in America in the military as the civilian population. It's where we come from. People, Leavenworth Military Prison. Every single person in there is a veteran. Every single one. So, the military community has its fair share of problems too. Imagine if that was a veteran who had lost a plot. That veteran would have aimed for center mass. he would have gotten 3 shots off in record time. They all would have connected. Yesterday I was asked by another group. They asked, it was kind of we called it the Pepsi Coke challenge, right? They said, will you film? Will you not like reenact it, but will you show us how hard or easy it is? So we took a 2-liter soda bottle of Dr. Pepper, we put it on a pole, and we walked it out to 143 yards. Took a civilian AR-15. I happen to own an AR-15 that I haven't touched. This thing hasn't been cleaned in like 15 years. I haven't seen this guy. I had to go dig it out of my gun safe. It was like buried in the back, right? With iron sights at 143 yards, and we hit the soda bottle. Well, the soda bottle is about the size of a human head. It's not hard. So the question is, if we say the maximum effective range on a point target with an AR-15 or an M4 is 650 meters in the Army manual, Google it, well, then why was the perimeter so close?
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense. The director of the Secret Service said, yeah, we considered putting snipers on the rooftop, but the slope was not good for whatever. Well, it was good for the shooter.
He made it work.
It worked for somebody. So that dog doesn't hunt too well. So all kinds of things. There's all kinds of issues. Why when he got hit, he went down. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. President Trump handled himself beyond all the fight stuff. Just from a protectee perspective, we spend, when I've done this work, we train our protectees on what to do. When things happen, we tell them, you have a choice. You can do what we tell you to do and train, and we can train you to do some things, or I need to be right up on you and invade your privacy at all times. Almost always they go, well, yeah, tell me what to know. They play an active role in their survival. The shots rang out. He gets hit. What does he do? He goes right to the ground. Exactly how he was trained to do. He's made a silhouette smaller, created an angle between him and the shooter, knowing that the shooter is going to have to adjust his sight picture. All the things that it was as a protectee, he was, forget about all the political stuff and the fight
Yep.
and all that stuff. But as a protectee, he did eloquently. It is scary to be shot at. Anyone who has been shot at that says it's not a big deal has never been shot at before. We need to remember, everyone's talking about the snipers. This is the first time in the history of the Secret Service from 1901 that a counter sniper from the Secret Service engaged the target.
Wow.
Never happened before. We've never had a sniper attempt on a president before. Never happened. So everyone's like, oh my God, can you believe what this is the first time for a lot of people. First time for the president, first time for the snipers, first time for everybody. There's a lot of psychology that goes into this stuff that, if I'm a Secret Service sniper and I'm behind the glass, I'm kind of not believing what I'm seeing at first. But how am I looking at a target 143 yards away with a gun?
Right.
Right now in that building were Pennsylvania State Police ERT snipers, which adds insult to injury. Right? They were below the shooter. And they're probably wondering why everyone's so excited, because they're on different radios. They don't know what's going on. So imagine you're the Secret Service sniper and you're told, be advised, we have a shooter on building 2, and you've been briefed that there's another sniper team at building 2. I could see it. Oh yeah, that's our guys. Some civilians saw it, didn't know what they were looking at. That's the other sniper team. Well, I'll go kind of look. Oh wow, I can't really tell.
Mm-hmm.
I see the gun. I kind of, hey, Joe, is that one of our guys or what is that? Because how the hell did a sniper get on the roof at 143 yards so close?
Right.
That's got to be the other team. I can imagine the dialogue. That's not hard. Now imagine if they were wrong. Let's say, then the headline would be United States Secret Service blows away Pennsylvania State Trooper at Trump rally.
Yep.
That doesn't, so, there's a lot of hindsight's always 20/20. But if you kind of put yourself in the shoes of some of these folks, the agents, the bad guy, even, you kind of go through this stuff. The psychology behind this. Why did he miss? Everyone's like, oh well, whatever. I'll tell you right now, he was aiming for here. He wasn't aiming for headshots. He had a crappy gun with crappy ammo and no optics. He had a little junky red dot, no magnification. I'll tell you right now, he was aiming for Trump's center mass, and he missed. He missed a 6'3" dude, and now why? Because it's hot. Number one, he's been engaged by law enforcement already. A cop saw him.
Yep.
And so he knows he's on a clock, and he's about to assassinate the former president of the United States. What he looked like on that rooftop, his adrenaline was through the roof. His blood pressure was pegged in the red. Right? I've been in the field with Navy SEALs who have frozen stiff just from complete emotional and chemical overload of just getting shot at and being in a gunfight. So this is a punk kid. This isn't a steely-eyed killer type. This is a dumb kid who watched too much TikTok. No girl. Notice how his former girlfriend hasn't come forward to say, "Oh, and you know why? This kid doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's exactly Mr. Don Juan with the ladies. Doesn't seem to be, right? Doesn't seem to be."
Was the chin that gave it away?
Right? So, we need to think about the psychology of some of this stuff. But lots of failures happened. How come the Tahoe, the spare vehicle, wasn't right at the stage?
Yeah.
Right? It was 1,000 degrees outside. I read somewhere 30-something people went to the hospital that day with heat exhaustion. Forget about the sniper. What if the president just overheated and he went down? You're telling me that they're going to leave him on the stage for 5 minutes until they back the truck up? That truck, always, when you do this stuff, the name of the game is get your protectee, your principal, off the X as soon as possible and behind something bulletproof as soon as possible. What if there were two shooters?
Right.
In sniper land, we never work alone. Snipers never work. Yeah, at least always have a spotter, including the Secret Service, right? You always have multiple guns and intersecting field of fire. What if somebody had smuggled in a hand grenade or a homemade explosive, and the sniper shooting was just to get everyone looking this way while somebody lobbed a hand grenade that way? What if? So there's a number of failures that happen here that have nothing to do with the slope of the rooftop or there's communication failures, the procedural failures. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into this. Bottom line is, it's a miracle. Thank God he wasn't hit. Thank God. Not because he's President Trump or because he's a Republican, because he's an American. Americans being killed are, I wrote, somebody asked me this morning, if you were a speechwriter for President Trump, what would you have him say tonight at the RNC? What would you have him say? And I wanted to be a little different, right? Now I'm flamboyant sometimes, right? I go nose to nose with the Russian intelligence service, and I have a Hezbollah flag that I stole. I got it right here. I stole a Hezbollah flag from Beirut, right? I've been known to be a little flamboyant sometimes, just to be goofy, right? My answer was very simple. He needs to. Everyone's saying it. He needs to talk about unity and bringing the country together, not just bringing the Republican Party together, but bring the country together. You know what I would say if I were Donald Trump? I would get on the stage, and when everyone's going nuts and rah 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 and fight and all the things, I'd say, calm down, everyone. If I'm President Trump, President Trump and I went to the same high school, right? Where we have 3 distinguished alumni: President Trump, John Gotti Jr., and me. We're the only ones that ever did anything noteworthy, frankly, right? So, and we're all from Queens. Just so happens. If I were President Trump and everyone's going bananas, as he loves, I'd tell everyone, calm down. I'm here proud to accept the nomination and all the things that he needs to say. And what I would say is, I'd like to talk about gun control. I am the first president who is the victim of mental illness and gun crime. I'm a proud supporter of the NRA. I will always support the Second Amendment. I do support the Second Amendment. I've keynoted every NRA national convention that I've been invited to. I will continue to do that. I'm not coming for your guns. This is not what this is about. But as a victim of gun crime, I understand. No president can speak about being on the receiving end of gun violence like I can from an AR-15. I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm here to tell you, if you elect me as president, I want to have a conversation with all parties, all people, both sides, far left, far right, the NRA, the ACLU, the Boy Scouts of America, the rifle team of the B'nai B'rith. But I understand now about this whole gun control, gun violence thing. I get it. I get it. And I'm not here to tell you I'm going to do anything. I'm not here to tell you that I can solve the problem. I don't know what the problem. I don't know how to solve the problem, but I'm here to tell you I understand the problem. And there's no one on this stage or on this ticket that understands this the way I do. If he said it that way, you know, the far left anti-gun people out there would be hanging themselves. They wouldn't shoot themselves because they're anti-gun, but they'd all be taking pills though, or something, right? You know, you know, if you're a far left anti-gun, you know, the world needs slingshots kind of a person, right? It's a unifying thing. He's speaking the truth. There's a lot of truth to it. And I think that he would secure. I think that he'd secure votes. I think that people that are kind of on the fence would see a humble side of him that most people don't get to see. I've seen it personally. Donald Trump's a funny guy. He's a practical guy. He can be a goofball a little bit sometimes, you know. But there's a human side to him that most people don't see, and looking death in the face the way he did, and the way he carried himself, and the way he comported himself. I've been in dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of situations exactly like President Trump. I can't think. I'm a Purple Heart recipient. I mean, I've seen a lot of war. I've been blown up. I've taken artillery fire. I've had hitmen try and kill me. I've had all kinds of stuff happen to me personally. I can't think of a single time where I thought to go, oh yeah, I every time I've had a close call in my life, I thank God that I was quicker than they were, or they were slower than I was, and that I'm still here and they're still not every single time. So to see how he carried himself, I think was as a country, we talk about leadership, and I'm unabashedly not political. I say it all the time. I don't care who's president. I really don't. Whoever it is, it is. You know, when I first met President Obama, and I'm a pro-gay rights, gun-toting American. Whatever that makes me is what I am, right? When I met President Obama, and I had a lot of problems with President Obama's foreign policy. President Obama's policies, I can make an argument, killed a lot of my friends and made life very difficult for a lot of people in a lot of ways that I really had a real personal problem with. But when I met President Obama, I saluted him. You know why? Because he's my president. If I don't like it, I can move to Guatemala. He's still the president. So, you know, hopefully we have good elections. Somebody will win. The sun will come up tomorrow and somebody will get elected president. I promise. It'll happen. Whether, you know, it will be what it will be. And whoever that is, all I ask of them as the commander in chief and the leader of the free world is to think about how I just asked them to lead. And there's no such thing as passive leadership. That doesn't exist. Leadership is an active sport, sometimes a combat sport. Sometimes you got to fight for what you believe in, even if you're surrounded by people who don't believe in you. But you know, being the man in the arena, that comes with the job. If you're not prepared to fight the good fight, and you're not prepared to lead, you probably shouldn't be president.
Here.
You should, you know, go work at the DMV or something. You know, you should go do something else. Doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you a good person, you know, doesn't make you bad or good. But if being the leader of the free world, when we say the commander in chief, commander means something. That's not just the title. That actually means something. I would argue that the way President Biden is perceived, at least overseas, I think there's some real challenges with the perception of his leadership. I don't know him. I don't know what he's like behind closed doors. I'm not in the secret meetings. Maybe he's this Lex Luthor guy who
Smart as
is,
attack, Brian. Smart as attack.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I could tell you that on the streets of Beirut, on the streets of Ukraine, on the streets of Russia, on the streets of Haiti, on the streets of Maui, on the streets of Israel, on the streets of Gaza, all places I've been the last couple of years, the perception, at least, is not that. And that is not just about President Biden. That touches all of us. President Biden's a good man. He doesn't. President Biden doesn't wake up every day and say, "How do I screw things up?" He is trying to do. It's a tough job. It's hard to be president. I mean, hard to be president. Very hard to be good at it. Right? Very hard to be good at it. President Trump isn't the savior who's gonna ride in on a white unicorn that barfs rainbows and poops glitter. He has his own challenges too. But we as a country, we will suffer if we don't lead as a country. That's true for Congress. That's true for governors. That's true for your county officials. That's true for us as Americans. I talk about the yellow ribbon thing all the time. How do you explain to me that there are more Hamas and Hezbollah flags shown in America than there are yellow ribbons for American hostages? How does that track? I don't get that. I don't get it. And I'm a pretty creative guy. Now, I could see Hezbollah flags and Hamas flags all over the place. I get that. People are pissed off at the Israelis. And what they're doing in Gaza, having been there, is very brutal and very terrible. It's worth talking and arguing about, certainly. But it's about us first, though. I care about Americans way more than I care about the people in Gaza. They're all people. I've rescued, my team and I have rescued over 7,000 people.
Wow.
7,000 people since August 2021. Okay. About just over a third of them are Muslim.
Wow.
I don't care. I've rescued Jews, Christians. I've rescued gay people, straight people, people who don't know if they're gay or straight. I've rescued people. I rescued a one-legged piano player. Who knew that was a thing? In a wheelchair. I don't care. But you got to prioritize a little bit, and we come first. I care about an American citizen in captivity way more than anyone else, to be honest. And that sucks. But if I was Mexican, I'd care about Mexicans first. If I were from Bratislava, I'd care about Bratislavans first. I happen to be American, so I care about us first. And it's incumbent on us to nothing wrong with protesting. We are a country, the First Amendment, we talk about it with like it's nothing. The First Amendment, the purpose of the First Amendment is so that we can argue with each other. That's the purpose. That the founding fathers said Americans are jerks. Americans are jerks. Our next generations and the next generation are going to be bigger jerks than we are, right? We are revolutionaries. By today's standards, George Washington is one step away from Abu Nasrallah of Hezbollah. He was a revolutionary who fought against the government and tyranny and oppression. Those are the same words that Nasrallah says, right? I mean, there's a talking points. But we as Americans part of our DNA is to fight each other. That's fine, based on the implied task that we also carry about each other too, though. That's it. What the First Amendment says, you can say whatever you want about me, to me, that I vehemently disagree with, and scream at the top of your lungs. And you have to stand there and listen to me say the exact opposite. Not only can you say it, you can listen to me too. And we can agree to disagree. That's still an agreement. That's what the First Amendment's all about. But it's based on the idea that America comes first. That's the baked in part. If you talk to the founding fathers of Guatemala, they would tell you Guatemalans come first too. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Guatemala is a terrible country filled with human traffickers, drug dealers, the number one feeding country of human trafficking into America, all kinds of crazy stuff. Guatemalans still care about Guatemalans, though. How come? I'm not saying that people shouldn't protest and carry Hamas flags. I think that's crazy, personally. I don't get it. But I do say they have the right to do it, though. That's okay. I hate it. But as an American, they're allowed. No problem. What I don't get is how come there's not more yellow banners around, more yellow ribbons around, more how come illegals are given better services than our veterans? None of that makes sense to me. None of that makes sense. All of that is failures of leadership. And the world, because of iPhones, see it.
Yep.
That's the problem. Because we are so connected, the world sees it now. We may have always been screwed up. Maybe. But Abraham Lincoln famously said, better to be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Because of iPhones, and everyone's a reporter. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm watching TV. I'm doing media on the assassination thing, right? A month ago, everyone was a school shooting expert. Then everyone became a Ukraine expert. Then everyone became right? Then everyone became a debate expert. Then everyone became a cognitive ability expert. Then everyone became a drone expert, right? The drone experts, right? And, now everyone's as a bodyguard expert. And now everyone's a Secret Service expert. Now everyone's a sniper. Everyone's a sniper, It's amazing to me, right? I spent 25 years in the intelligence business. We know about a lot of things. If you ask me what it's like to be a Navy SEAL, I don't know. I'm not a Navy SEAL. I don't comment on it. I don't know. And I served on a SEAL team for years. And I don't carry telephone poles. I fly business class. I'm not that kind of guy, But it's amazing. Everyone, I look what I got on my thing. Therefore, I'm an expert because I recorded something. I don't, So for us at Grable, our perspectives are based on reality. I'm on these streets. I talk to these people personally. People have asked me, so tell me about President Biden. Is it true what we hear? Is President Trump really anti-Muslim? Is your southern border really open? These are questions I've gotten this week in Beirut, Lebanon. And as we talk about Israel, notwithstanding the fact that there's 15 to 20,000 Hezbollah guys in the United States of America, that's a real problem. Director Ray of the FBI, he was testifying not that long ago, and he said that there are 18 times, don't quote me on the numbers, but it was something like there's 18 times more active terrorist cases in the United States right now than we have FBI agents in the FBI.
Wow.
And we have presidents being sniped by 20-year-old bedwetters almost successfully. There's a problem.
A big one at that. Brian, I hate to do this, but we are hard pressed for time, which means now we must do the part of the show that makes me sad, and that is to say goodbye. So with that being said, I want folks to please go ahead, support the amazing organization that is Gray Bull Rescue. I'm so just, Brian, my final thoughts for today. I'm just so thankful that there are people like you who you see the writing on the wall and you're not sitting there saying, God, I really hope somebody can do something about this. You're the one doing something about this. And it's on us to be the change we wish to see in the world. And I just go back to what you were talking about with America needing to lead. I agree. We do need to lead. I very much am going to take on this Uncle Ben doctrine as we're moving forward here for the show, because I do believe we need to be able to not just have the great power, but also use it responsibly and to help maintain that infrastructure that we've built up, but also doing so understanding where we've been, how we got here, and where we're going. And looking at the world right now, it's a scary place. But you mentioned the iPhone generation, being able to record all the negative things on the same point in time. Let's flip it over. You can also record all the good things, and there's a lot of really good people doing some really good things right now. And you guys are one of them at Gray Bull Rescue. So thank you for what you guys are doing. I'm so very thankful we can have this conversation, talk about the great things you guys are doing. And to my audience, please support Gray Bull Rescue, because at the end of the day, again, it is folks like Bry and his team who are going out They're putting themselves in harm's way, but they're doing so because there's a bigger purpose here. There's a bigger calling. And it goes back to, I want to just reiterate this again. We are not just, red team, blue team, left, right, different colors, different religions. We're Americans, and that's okay. Not only is that okay, that should be celebrated. And what's the expression, e pluribus unum, from many, one? We need to go back to that mentality. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you. Just because we think different ways doesn't mean I view you as the enemy. So with that being said, Bryan Stern from Gray Bull Rescue, thank you for joining us. Where can folks go ahead, support the organization, and if they want to reach out and continue the conversation, where can they go ahead and do so?
GrayBullRescue.org with an E, Gray Bull with an E. We had a big gunfight over E versus A. I won't bore you with that story. GrayBullRescue.org is our website. You can also find us on social media. We're on all the things that I don't know how to use, LinkedIn and Twitter or X or whatever, and Facebook and Instagram and all the things. And we need your help. We need your help. These operations are cost effective from a government perspective, but they still cost money. Helicopters don't fly themselves, and I wish I had my own, but I don't. If you have a listener out there that wants to donate us a helicopter or an airplane, it will go to good use. We're here for all of us, not just for you, not just for me, not just for your neighbor. We're here for all of us. If your passport looks like my passport and you're in trouble, and they won't come, you're not without hope. We will come. We will come.
There you go. All right, Brian, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And folks, if you enjoyed today's episode, you know the drill. Go ahead, give it a share, tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty. All of the social media links aforementioned will be included in our show notes. Otherwise, graybullrescue.org, gray with an E. That link also can be found in the show notes. And folks, for the podcast or video version of the show, I ask, please, wherever it is you're consuming the show, just hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, and head down below to the comments. Let us know your thoughts. We want to hear them. Do you think that America is playing too much of a role on the national stage? Do you think that the assassination on attempt on Donald Trump's life is in fact a big red flag in terms of how our systems are starting to break down here in America? Continue the conversation, YouTube, Rumble, wherever it is you consume your video content, or for the audio version of the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music. And one last plug, please support the folks who support us, our amazing sponsors like Amp America, Cardio Miracle, Ebles CBD, Liquid Freedom Energy Tea, and more. All those links for our sponsors can be found at BrianNicholsShow.com. Brian, that's been a great conversation. Any last words as we wrap things up today for the audience?
No, I'm good. I got a raging headache and I'm jet lagged, so I got a little ranty. But this is important stuff to rant about, is what I was saying.
1000%. Brian, I really appreciate the time. With that being said, it's Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Bryan Stern from Gray Bull Rescue. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at BrianNicholsShow.com.